Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online build video with me, Sherman. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Dragon Guard. This is a Dragon Knight tank build that I have religiously played, I should say, for the past 2 years almost on my main DK tank. And it's one that I just really enjoy playing because of its uniqueness and its diversity in play versus the atypical meta tank or popular tank. Now, I did adjust it to be more towards the popular side in its build structure, and I still kind of enjoy it a lot, but at the same time, I feel like it doesn't have the oomph that it used to. So, we'll go ahead and go over this and get into it. So, taking a look at the build, you can see we have 1 into Magicka, 41 into health, 22 into stamina. We are an Argonian, so we do get the 9% max health, which is kind of good. We do have a 20k Magicka, 21k stamina, which is also kind of good. We have a 25% spell crit, which is good for this particular build because Green Dragon's Blood is a magic ability, and it does take Magicka to cast. But it affects you in a different way. So you do want that magic crit to be there if you want that spell to heal you for crit heals. So having that 25% can really help. Moving on to the spell resistance, we have a 24k spell resist with a 21k physical resist on the sword and shield side. When we swap over to the bar, you'll see we go to 21, 18. But when we buff up, we actually go to 23, 27 on the staff bar and 30k, 26k on the physical bar, or on the sword and shield bar. This is actually really good on sword and shield. Not quite 50%, but close enough to mitigate a lot of damage still. Moving on to the bonuses or active effects we are running the Lady Moonstone on this particular build because we aren't running a monster set that gives us extra resistances or any armor that gives us extra resistances. So this one plays a little awkwardly to some people, but it works out really well because we do have that max health at 40k, and this build works awesome at 40k health. We do have Ebon Armory and Minor Heroism because of Shulks and the Ebon Armory armor set. We do have Tri-Stat Food, and we are a vampire. Now, I did have this at Stage 3 when I was testing it. I didn't notice a difference, to be honest. So it's really up to you if you want to be a vampire or not. I'll leave that up to the decision of the player, more than just telling you that you should pick it. So that's pretty much that. Let's go ahead and jump into the gear. On the food, you do want to use Tri-Stat Food. Any Tri-Stat Food that's purple, that's CP 150, is going to be really good. It's going to give you the most health, most max Magicka, and max stamina that you can have, and it allows you to reach those higher numbers of like 21k and 20k. And those are viable areas to be for a tank, like really viable. The potions you want to use on live are Tri-Stat potions. It's very similar to this. They're called health pots, and they give you max health of 9,000 on life, 7,000 magic and stamina. On the test, we only have access to the restoration potions. We could craft potions, but I find these just work as good, so I'm using them. As you can see, they give us also health, major intellect, major endurance, and health recovery by 20%. So it's like you get all these different things and they're okay, but you don't really need the recoveries because it's not going to improve those enough, but it does help. Moving on to the gear sets, we are using an unfamiliar set to most tanks, and that is the Infernal Guardian. After doing thorough testing with my favorite set, the Grothdar set, I find Infernal Guardian works a little bit better, and it's a little bit more effective because I do use the damage shield, Igneous Shield, quite a bit with this. So I am using it, not quite every 6 seconds, but when I do use it, that little burst of extra damage is really good, especially when it's over 20k almost in damage. So it's pretty crazy. And I say almost 20k. That's because you got to count resistances in from the enemy, and I can usually pull off somewhere around 6k per hit. So that's 18,000 damage. So it's pretty crazy when you have this going off like that. It's doing almost, 18,000 damage, or doing a little over 18,000 damage, depending on how much spell penetration you have against the enemy. So I am also wearing the Ebon Armory set, or Ebon set as a lot of people call it. This gives you max health in the 2-piece, max health in the 3-piece. 4-piece gives you healing received or healing taken, which is not the same as healing received, but it still works in the same sense, but it's its own thing. So like healing received is usually like gonna be a bigger percentage, especially playing on Argonian and the way we have our CP set up. We have a 10% healing received. Healing taken is its own separate form, so it's a separate 4%, but it gets added to that 10%. So you actually get a 14% healing received in a way. Now, for being a DK, you can also improve your healing by another 12% when you use a certain pass or class abilities from a passive, and when you have that active, that's a 26% increase in healing taken or healing received. So you get massive heals because of this 4%. The next is the 5-piece bonus, which gives you and your group members 1,118 health as long as you all stay within 28 meters of each other, and you should never be 28 meters apart. So it's a really beneficial set, but at the same time, it only works viably if your allies have below below 17k, 16k, you know, like 16 to 17k health. Does it make it viable? Anything above that, like 18k health, you don't need it. You don't need the Ebon Armor for somebody, and you can actually use Plague Doctors or something else in your group if you wanted to. Plague Doctors actually is a little bit more health. So, moving on to the next set, we are running a 5-piece Shulks. Shulks is a really, really amazing set, especially when you're playing more of a Magicka-based character like I am here. 1, it gives you max health. 2-piece, for the 2-piece, the 3-piece gives you spell damage. 4-piece gives you a little bit of spell crit, and then the 5-piece grants you minor heroism at all times while you are in combat. That means no heroic slash needed, no wasting of stamina to get that, but you will still be using that ability in a different form with this build. And I'll explain why in a minute. And I'll explain why I chose this set when we get to the skills. So moving on, we are using a sturdy shield, and on the gear, when I get done with this, I'm going to go over all the gear and the placement of what I have, how I have it set up. So we are running a sturdy shield here with a infused sword on the front bar. The infused sword does have a crusher enchant, and then we are using a infused fire staff on the back bar with the crusher enchant. That's the other reason why we're running the Lady Mundstone, is so when we swap bars, we don't lose out that much on our resistances as we would if we didn't have the Lady Mundstone. If we didn't have the Lady Mundstone, we'd drop to, I think it's like 19 or almost 18k here, and it's 16k physical resistance. That's not good, guys. That will get you wiped out in a heartbeat in a dungeon. So this helps out a lot more. Now, going over the gear itself, the way I have it set up is I have infused on the helm and the leggings only. The smaller pieces, this should be sturdy. The smaller pieces should all be sturdy, including your shield. And that's because when you're on your front bar, you will be blocking mostly on your front bar. So on your sword and shield bar is where you're going to be doing all your blocking. On your back bar, you should never block. Like, you shouldn't block at all, because you do get a 20% block reduction, but that's it. And, like, in mitigation and damage, but it's not going to help you that much unless you're being just attacked by trash. If you're being attacked by weaker mobs, it's fine. If you're being attacked by a boss, always block on your front bar. Switch to your back bar only to apply certain negative effects, kind of thing. So back to the gear, we are running a reinforced chest on this, and that's because running a reinforced chest is going to give you greater resistances, but it's really not that much. It's only like 300, 400 more resistances over the normal, so it's not a massive increase. I think it might even be more. It might be like 1,400, but even then, it's really not a massive climb in your resistances. And you could probably do something else if you wanted to, but it's still this is the best piece to reinforced, is the chest piece. So The shield is also good if you reinforce it. So either one. I like using the chest. I have to agree with some other people with this, that the chest has definitely helped. Alright, so that's it. On to the jewelry, though. We are running 2 tri-rune pieces here. Now, you will need jewelry crafting to do this, and jewelry crafting is coming with Summerset, so you will be able to change these to tri-rune. If you don't have tri-rune, just go healthy here, and also here. But you do still want this cooldown. So this one gives you a greater block cost on the 2 rings, and then we have a cooldown of potions on this one. And you can still have it set up healthy and get it to work. It's just not going to be as viable as it is like this. This makes it a lot more viable. So yeah, I really love this setup. Especially when I'm playing magic builds. Now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about skills. So moving on to skills, always make sure you get your class passives. Your class passives are super essential to this setup and how this build plays. The one thing I want to cover first and foremost is Elder Dragon, or not Elder Dragon, Burning Heart. Burning Heart is a very powerful draconic ability. This is that one I was talking about, the 12% healing received. This applies to being an Argonian, which gets 5%. The way we have our CP set up, we get an additional 5%. That is a 10%. That's a 22% healing received. And then with that 4% healing taken, sorry, it's total of 25% healing received. So, or 27%, or 26%, I don't know. It's some crazy number of healing received. And it is. It's a lot of healing received. And this is what makes Green Dragon Blood so powerful. Because Green Dragon Blood heals you, as you can see, for 39% of your missing health. And it grants you minor endurance, or minor fortitude, major endurance, and minor vitality, increasing your health, stamina, and healing received, again, for another 8%. So now that 26% goes into 32%. So if you cast this again, you're going to get a massive heal. And that's what makes it so good. And that's why we do use this as our main heal. And the duration of it's 23 seconds. But here's the other great thing. Even after you cast it once, any heal applied to you is getting that 36% healing done. Like healing received on you. So it's really, really good. Alright, but make sure you get all your class passives and everything. Make sure on your sword and shield you get all the passives. Destruction staff, all the passives. Mainly you want this one right here the most. And these other ones do play into this for more solo-ish type of play than it does on group play. In group play, it does work in dungeons really well. Like this kind of, like the having the destruction staff, that kind of thing. The main thing you're going to be doing with the destruction staff, just to let you know, is using it for heavy attacks. Just like you would your sword and board to get resources back. Moving on through the armor passives, make sure you get all your light armor passives. Medium armor passives, you want, or not light armor, you don't want them all. You want the top 3. Medium armor, you want the top 2 and the bottom 1. Heavy armor, you want all of them. Moving on to world skills. Now, you can choose to be a vampire or not. It's up to you. If you do, make sure you get the undeath passive from the vampire. And then moving on to the guild skills. Preference of play, I like Intimidating Presence and Banish the Wicked. Mage's Guild, I like Persuasive Will and Magic Controller if I'm using Balance as a secondary ability. As you can see, though, Balance does cost me a lot of resources, so it is kind of important to get some of these other things out of the way, like maybe Adept Mage, Everlasting this, and, of course, this one. So this, now you can see it costs me 6,477 health. It gives me 3,000 magicka. It also grants me Major Ward and Major Resolve for 27 seconds. Actually almost 28 seconds, which is pretty good. And you can use this and then let the 4-second cooldown wear off that it has, because it does give you a negative effect of healing done and damage, the damage shield. So, of 50%. So it's huge. So when those 4 seconds wear off, you can use Green Dragon's Blood and get that health right back. So, moving on to the next thing, Psijic Order. Psijic Order, you're going to want to get this, guys. Trust me on this. This is going to be the main tank thing in the next for pretty much now until forever. And that is Deep Thoughts. Deep Thoughts is an amazing skill, but you will have to level through the Sigil Order almost to 10 to rank 9 to unlock this ability, the Meditate ability, and then you'll have to get the Morph Deep Thoughts. Deep Thoughts is an instant cast, no magicka, no resources, and what it does is it puts you in a meditative state that gives you health back in both magic and stamina. You will want to get these two passives, Concentrated Barrier, which if you look, it gives you a damage shield for 5,800, and then this damage shield recharges back to full strength after you spend 10 seconds not blocking. So really powerful. And then you have Deliberation, which allows you, anytime you use a channel ability, which Deep Thoughts is, it will grant you major protection while it's active. So you get 30% damage mitigation, which is crazy. And with all that healing received, by the way, if you have Green Dragon's Blood plus Igneous Shield, you know, going while you have this in the first 3 seconds, your heals from this thing is through the roof. It's like 5k. Moving on to Undaunted. I do not have Inner Fire or any of its morphs unlocked because this build really doesn't need it. If you think you need it, you can get it. Undaunted Command and Undaunted Metal are needed for this. Moving on to the Alliance side, Aggressive Warhorn is super important to have. I'm just going to say that. We'll go over it when we get the skill. Argonian passes, make sure you get all the passes, including, and most definitely, this one. But you will have all these unlocked usually by the time you hit 50 anyways, and should. Because this passive here is going to make it mean life or death for you because of the resource return it gives you, which, no offense to anybody out there that thinks that this isn't overpowered, this is beyond overpowered. When you can get 12k plus resources back from a potion, that's overpowered. I'm sorry to say it, but it is. That's just way overpowered. I think they need to tone that back some, in my opinion. This one here increases max health, really good. And then, of course, increasing healing done and healing received by 5%. Onto the crafting skills, alchemical or alchemy. Make sure you get medicinal use, and then with jewelry crafting, or not jewelry, provisioning, make sure you get gourmet and connoisseur. These are not really necessary, but they do help. So going over the skills now, we're going to take a look at these. Starting with the first one on the bar, we do have Pierce Armor. Pierce Armor is your ability to apply Major Breach, Major Fracture, and it is also a taunt, which is awesome. It does do a little bit of damage, and it does even more when you have your Wall of Elements down from the back bar. Onto the Sword and Shield, or the next ability, we are using Deep Slash instead of Heroic Slash. Because we're wearing Shulks, we don't need Minor Heroism from Heroic Slash. We're going to get that all the time we're in combat. And on DK, holy cow, it's incredible. Because you do have a class passive in Earth and Heart called Mountain's Blessing. And if you read the bottom line, if you are in combat, you also generate 3 ultimate every 6 seconds. So every 6 seconds you're getting 3 ultimate. Well, guess what happens in 6 seconds? You get another 3 ultimate. So you're getting 6 ultimate every 6 seconds in combat with the Shulk set equipped. Non-stop. Like every 6 seconds you're gonna have 6 ultimate. This thing generates ultimate like it's raining from the sky. It's crazy. So that's why we have Deep Slash here, is because we don't need that. Now, Deep Slash is a very powerful ability when used like this, because it can apply Minor Maim to multiple targets. It can apply it to 3, and it lasts for 12 seconds. This is the longest lasting Minor Maim in the game. So this is why it's really important to use this ability, especially in boss encounters. Even though it says you can hit up to 3 targets, it hits 1 target and 2 nearby enemies, and it does apply Minor Maim to all 3. So really good. It does some damage, and it does a little bit of damage to side allies, so really not that bad. It's pretty good. The next ability is Igneous Shield. This is a massive damage shield, by the way. I want you guys to see this. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this thing. That's a 12k damage shield. When I throw this up, that's 18k. Now, when I have Warhorn and this and all this up, I have over almost a 20k damage shield. That's a lot of damage it can mitigate, guys. Just saying. So really, really a good shield. It also grants you major mending for 3 seconds. So you want to use this in conjunction with Green Dragon's Blood. Anytime you're going to cast Green Dragon's Blood, activate this first. Anytime you go to activate Green Dragon's Blood, though, you will want to activate another ability, and we'll get to that in a second. So on to Green Dragon's Blood. Green Dragon's Blood allows you to draw on the Draconic Blood to heal yourself for 39% of your missing health. You also gain those things I mentioned earlier, which is just crazy. And then the next ability we have is Deep Thoughts. That's the one I already covered. Really crazy again. And then we have Aggressive Warhorn. Aggressive Warhorn is something you're going to be using pretty much non-stop. You're going to have this up every chance you can. This grants max magicka, max stamina, and max health by 10%. This also grants your group major force, increasing their damage by 15% for 9.5 seconds. This is great. Really good ability. And try to keep it up as much as you can. As much as whenever it comes off cooldown or you generate enough ultimate to cast it, cast it. Moving on to the back bar, Choking Talons. Mainly we have this to grab enemies and immobilize them for 4 seconds. It does have a minor taunt on it, just to let you guys know, but it doesn't last. It's like for the duration of the Talons. So for 4 seconds, it grabs their attention to you, and as soon as that's off, anyone that's hit them, they're going to go after unless you taunt them. Now, it also applies minor maim for 7 seconds, and then on top of that, it's a synergy, which makes it really good too, because you can synergize off of it. And the synergy does work on bosses. So I can activate this on a boss. It'll show the Talons come up real quick, but they won't do anything. The synergy will still happen, and you can synergize off of it, guys. But you have to be right there. So the next ability we have on our bar is Engulfing Flames. And the main reason why we have this here is affected enemies take 10% more damage from all fire damage. We want this on there for our DPS mainly. Now, if you have a DK in your group that is already doing this right here, don't worry about it, because we have another ability we can swap out there. If you go to Destruction Staves, you can put Elemental Drain there. And if you already have a healer using that, you can actually go to the Draconic abilities and grab Deep Breath. And Deep Breath is a really powerful heal for you. So, and then moving on to the next ability, Unstable Wall of Fire. Now, there's 2 versions of this. There is Unstable Wall, and then there is another Wall of Fire. This one just explodes, but burning enemies take 20% more damage from this ability. That's why you want to use Engulfing Flames first, because you have a greater chance of applying burning from this, and then getting this to do more damage to those enemies. Now, this one lasts 6 seconds, so it'll put the wall down for 6 seconds, and it will keep Crusher applied, because you do have Crusher on your fire staff, and then you can swap bars, and it'll still keep Crusher applied for 1 more tick. So every 6 seconds, you are going to want to try and keep this up, so you can keep that on there. The other wall lasts for 8 seconds. In the end, they do equivalent damage, but I just prefer this one, because I love that exploding thing, because it has a greater reach in damage. So it has the same reach as both of them. It's just this one explodes. Next up, we have Unrelenting Grip. Now, this is a chain ability that a lot of people like to use. This allows you to pull enemies to you, and this is one reason why we don't use the ranged taunt, is we don't need it. We can just pull an enemy to us, unless they're an enemy that can't be pulled. And if they can't, we'll get our magicka returned to us. Then you have to move over to that target and taunt it. The next ability we have on our bar is Hardened Armor. Now, a lot of people like to use that balance ability. I like Hardened Armor because this gives me a small damage shield for 17% of my max health. It's like a 6k shield. On top of that, while active, while I have this up, any enemy that hits me will have 857 damage returned to them. And it's mitigated damage, so they can mitigate it, but if their resistances are really low anyways, they're just going to be taking damage from me. So, and that's if they use a direct damage attack. So, pretty good. And then the last ability we have on our bar, which you probably won't be using, is Magma Shell. Now, the reason I chose Magma Shell is because it is actually a really good ability. You ignite molten lava in your veins, limiting incoming damage to 3% of your max health, and dealing 740 flame damage to nearby enemies each second for 10 seconds. It's the second one that is amazing. When activated, nearby allies gain a damage shield for 116% of their max health for 9 seconds. This is if you know there's something bad going to happen in an encounter and you want to save the life of your allies, you're going to pop this along with this. Now, I do want to say this. When you have Warhorn up, this will give your allies a 5,076, I think it is, or 46 point damage shield, if you build it exactly to the structure I have. So it's a really powerful damage shield. Alright, let's move on to CP. CP, very similar to my other tank builds that I've made so far. 56 in Ironclad, reducing damage against all direct damage attacks by 20%. 23 in a Thick Skin, reducing your damage taken from damage over time effects by 10%. 56 in a Hardy, reducing physical poison disease damage by 12%. And then 56 in Elemental Defender, reducing Flame Frost, Shock, and Magic damage by 12%. Moving on over here, we have 40 points in the Bastion, increasing the effectiveness of your damage shields by 16%. Now, you guys are probably wondering, well, I thought you said we were going to get 5% healing received. You will. Quick recovery, 5%, 19 points. This is really good, by the way. It helps out so much with the Argonian tank. It's not even funny. Moving on to the green tree, we have 56 into Warlord. This reduces our break free cost by 20%. We do have 3 into Sprinter. This gives us a 2% sprint reduction. With that extra we get from the medium armor, we actually get like a 6% reduced cost. Bashing focus of 23. This gives us a 14% reduced bashing cost, which is pretty good. And then we have 43 points in tenacity. This increases both our magicka and stamina return of our heavy attacks, depending on what bar we're on. If we're using sword and shield, that's another 10% on top of that. If we're using the fire staff, another 10%. Moving on over here, we have 44 into tumbling. This reduces our cost of dodge roll by 17%. And it's amazing how much 17% can save you. But it's even better when you're using well-fitted. And we'll get into that in another build. Moving on to the last and not least of the green trees, Shadow Ward. 81 points, giving us a 24% block cost reduction. This thing almost has no block cost reduction when you're on sword and shield. As soon as you switch to staff, the block cost goes, but it still costs you stamina, and it's only like a 700, or it's like an 800 per, cost in blocking. So it's not, or not 800, 1800. So it's not too bad, but try not to block on your back bar too much. Moving over here to the blue tree, we have 76 in a Bless. This increases our healing done by 14%. So when we use Green Dragon's Blood, it's a 19% healing done. Because we are an Argonian, which we get 5% healing done. Then you add it to a 36% healing received. That's crazy. We have 81 into Elfborn. This also gives us a 24% healing, critical healing received. So it makes that Green Dragon's Blood just heal us for an absurd amount. If it crit heals. I think the highest I've seen it is 36k. And that was at 50% health, guys. So that's a lot. So moving on to the last few, we have 49 in Elemental Expert. This increases our Flame Frost, Shock, and Magic damage by 11%. This is mainly there for solo play when you're like soloing through like normal content. This increases your fire damage and any magic damage you do, so kind of nice. Spell Erosion 4. This just increases your spell penetration by an extra 413, and it's just there for solo play again. Next up, we have 40 in the Master at Arms. This increases our damage done with direct damage attacks by 16%. I would suggest putting into either one of these if you want to go for Tactician, but it's really not needed. So that's how it works out. Nothing into this tree at all. And that, guys, is the Dragon Guard. So I do want to show you guys a little bit about this build and how things can work. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to jump out here, and we're going to go actually to the Maw And I'm going to show you guys how well this build can work against enemies. Because you're going to think that it's going to be kind of a resource hog, but it's really not. It's really, really resource management friendly, and it's very resourceful. So, because you're probably looking at all those magic abilities going, wow, that's a lot of magicka cost. But because of how well this build can work with getting resources back, doing certain things, it's really resource friendly. And especially with that potion thing every 37 seconds. So the build itself works very well. Now this is on normal mode. I didn't want to come in here on veteran because I didn't want to like be in here and trying to talk and doing all this stuff and not being able to concentrate because it's a little bit more difficult. But I did want to just show you guys like how much damage you can mitigate with this build. So just mitigation, if we block with our resistances and we go over here and we do this and we just stand here and hold block, you guys will see like I can stand here for a while and it doesn't matter because I can just keep doing this and Green Dragon's Blood and I will never die. Use a potion. Pop. Oops. Do this. Now we're going to go ahead and use some of our resources. And try and take some of these guys out. Now you do got to be careful with the magicka side a little bit because you do have an excessive amount of magicka skills, and this is one of the reasons why I don't like this build too much, is because you do wind up using a lot of magicka, and if you're not careful you can burn through it really quick. Also, I'm going to go ahead and pop Warhorn, Green Dragon's Blood, Damage Shield, that, block on this bar, and there you guys go. You guys can see it for yourselves. Like, the absurd amount of mitigation this thing has on that, like 20k shield, because of our max health, so... This thing is just incredible. And I do like it. I mean, like, if I'm in a group, I can actually use these other resources. Because if I need resources, I can always ask for an orb or a spear shard. So you can see, though, that it's pretty much just spank and tank here. I mean, it's pretty crazy. But unfortunately, that's it. So you guys, I just wanted to kind of show that off for you guys so you guys could see it for yourselves. It is a really, really good build, though. I've been having a lot of fun with this build. Testing it, playing around with it, actually tanking with it. I'm actually enjoying it, which is kind of sad, coming from a guy who's never been a big, huge fan of, like, the meta. So, and as you guys saw there, that was an 11,000 point heal with just that. And that doesn't include having this up first and then popping that. Like, if I did that, I would have healed to full health. It's just nuts. So that's it for the Dragon Guard, guys. I hope you guys like this build, and if you guys did, it'd be great if you guys could hit that like button. If you guys want to see more build videos by me or other videos by me, you can hit that subscribe button. Other than that, that's pretty much it for the build video, guys. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and this guy might see you in game. Bye.